This is honestly one of my favourite houses that we've done in the last 20 years. We're in this really interesting phase where we're just trying to house as many people as possible in as many ways as possible all over Australia. And this is sort of a product of how we've got this small elite special forces unit where we really got our process right, and great sort of team. So Claire in our office ran this project. We all know the problems, and one of them being that we've got the biggest houses in the world. That's a product of sort of this cultural lens. We all know it, you know, the A.V. Jennings and the quarter-acre block, and over time that's swelled. So we've got these huge tumorous houses that just take up all of their space, all of their green space, and almost touch each other. So there's a real cultural lens that causes this to happen, and like many of you, I'm sure that you try to talk clients down from bigness. The great thing about this project was we had a client from Croatia who spent a long time living in Berlin, and the other client from the Jiangsu province in China. Neither of them, both of them had only lived in apartments their entire life. And they went and bought a bit of dirt, and it was like this incredible, like instead of this rite of passage for an Australian to go buy a bit of dirt, put a house on it, there was this absolute privilege for them. They'd lived for many years in the Docklands, raising their two kids who again had only lived in an apartment. They came to us talking about that house, which is what that's called, sort of that German austerity that our client liked. Everything you need, nothing that doesn't. And we applied a lot of language to this that explained that it was a lot smaller than the neighbouring buildings. So we were trying to maintain green space, and also this public sort of aspect to the building that we contribute to the street by having visual sort of surveillance into the street. So they bought a huge 230 square metre block. You know, they couldn't believe how lucky they were. A lot of people would think that was a compromise size. They realised how brilliant the connection was to Faulkner Park, and lots of amenity, the station and the rest. The house that was on the site, we like renovating and extending, but it was not in a condition worth saving, little weatherboard joint. And really strange outdoor space for a young family that wanted to spend, you know, their lives there. Two kids growing into adulthood, and this strange entry through the car park, and some sensitivity to that eastern neighbour as well that we were aware of. But then a continuous wall along the west, allowing us to sort of lean against that western edge. And all we did was to be polite neighbours, so we just worked out where the extent of their building was, their upstairs extension with their outlook from that level, and then putting this U-shaped footprint with these great green spaces that are all visually connected through, and then upstairs just working off the neighbour's footprint to politely add some more amenity for a 3-bedroom house. So one of the reasons they picked us is they're very rational people. They really talked about, you know, how rational they wanted, how efficient they wanted. They didn't want any space. They saw the decadence of like spare bedrooms and things like that as a waste and you know, sort of a bit of a crime. But they came to us because they knew that no matter how hard they pushed us to straighten everything out and tighten the screws, that some little bit of AMA-ness was going to pop out, some little bit of playfulness was going to come out. So in terms of the plan, you've got this entry area, which is like a little play space, and there's storage on the right there, so you drop your stuff off. That can become a guest area. You've got the bathrooms you can see on each level are stacked, and most of the services are all running along that western side, so really efficiently stacking things to the west. And then dining, kitchen, all opening out to that eastern courtyard. And then north up the page with the shed is that side element on the ground floor, and then upstairs kids wing, parents wing with this sort of bloated, for want of a better word, corridor space that becomes like their rumpus space, the interstitial space for the kids. And then so externally it's that austere sort of, I always talk about it's the herringbone suit that our client would, love on the outside, and it tells that story, but it still has that playfulness of AMA. And no waste as well, so you're using material and then really thinking about how we put pattern into it where we don't chuck stuff in the bin, even to the extent where we ended up cladding like the western top part, even though very unlikely anybody will see it. But then that playfulness of AMA, the transparency, it's fluted glass, but you get to see sort of transparency, there's participation with the street. And the garage is more than a garage, as we always do. 2 garage doors, so you can actually have like the 18th birthday party spilling out there, or play a game of cricket, or activity spilling to the street, or you can close the street side one to make an extension of this eastern side space, or just have it closed. And then each morning you've just got sunlight streaming into that dining area and kitchen area. And then looking back on the left-hand side one to the backyard, so all that transparency straight through the house. And as we come back to the front, you can see we've sort of wrapped that tailoring around the building. The little picket fence, so the front garden, that sort of layering off the street. And then you've got this space, so you can drop your stuff to the left there in the cupboards, that transparency that you have, but still privacy. Kids play here a bit, but you can also have it as a guest area. So they've got, Croatian, German and Chinese family that can come and stay. And the idea was to make it comfortable, but not too comfortable. You can stay for a few days, and there's a bathroom like right next door to it. That's the stacked bathrooms, but you're not going to feel comfortable enough to stay for 3 months, which was part of the brief. And also they didn't want that wastage of the spare suite. Looking back towards the front from that courtyard and the dining space, and then turning 180 where we're looking out into the backyard. So the idea of being that both ends are transparent on this tiny block, so it feels like the edge of the building just goes on. That's now covered in greenery at the back. And a very slight slope where we've used that as an opportunity to break the slab, so we end up with a 450 edge in that dining area, so that little informal space for people to gather and for kids to sort of naturally hang out and play. The bathroom stacked, really efficient kitchen. The kitchen is the stair, everything you need and nothing you don't in there. Our usual mirrored splashback, so you've got that reflection of outdoor space. And post-COVID, how you actually have workspaces. There's a few spots in this house for working, but how you have the workspace, but it also disappears as well. The little things like the wine shelf is the same herringbone language, so getting details and following those through the rest of the house. Looking back towards the front, so you always get this play of movement going with the streets. You've got a connection with space, but you've got privacy as well. 1 minute, all right, I'm halfway there. Heading upstairs, the stacked bathrooms and that efficiency, the transparency of that void space, and then the kids' wing at one end and this play space. And then as we go through, it's the closest thing to a corridor, really, the separation between the kids' rooms and their shared bathroom on there. The parents' room, which is everything you need and nothing that you don't. And as sustainable as all of our other stuff, all of the external glazing is protected with the external blinds and louvers. Love this, the tiling is also herringbone, a great clear sort of detail there. Doing all the best stuff that we do, including 7 kilowatts of solar and battery and all of that, fossil fuel free and all electric. This was the thing though, like we've gotten, like our process, it's a complete process now. Like it's an amazing team where you look at the contract price and that's what we ended up with the final price. Like, so the rigour around how we deal with the site, how we design with the client, and then sort of shifting into Mark Austin land and the team where it becomes about really great delivery of product and housing people. So that service part of the architecture is something we've taken incredibly seriously over the last few years to make sure that we deliver what we promise. Thank you.